that's all I had to do. I don't know. How can I tell if it's recording? Okay, there we go. So the goal today is to do a quick review for the midterm on Thursday. Now let me share my screen with the sort of online quiz that's listed. So let me see, where the heck is this thing? Okay, so this midterm 2 is linked into the Canvas schedule. So if you scroll down, you can see, oops, I didn't really mean to do that. I don't know what I'm doing there. It starts on Thursday morning and ends Friday early evening. So sometime in that window, you need to start the exam. Once you start, you have a set amount of time to take it, right? So you have sort of a normal exam amount of time to take it, but you have a wide latitude in when you choose to take it. So let's see. It's a dumb Canvas quiz. You have to take it all at once, so make sure you have to finish it once you start. So if there's some technical failure, let me know. I should be able to see if you've answered 5 questions and 5 remain, and I can restart it or something like that for you. But it gets a little complicated. You can't go back and like try again on questions. Most of our Canvas quizzes so far have all been take as many times as you want kind of things, and this is more, you get one chance to answer it. So be careful what you pick, and don't worry too much if you have some minor mistakes. You can use class materials in answering the questions, and the work must be your own work. So that's the basics. So it's sort of an open booky kind of test, and that's kind of it. And so any basic questions about it?
I have a question. Will there be like a programming section, or is it kind of like multiple choice?
There's a mix of questions. I'm kind of still, it's been a while since I made a Canvas quiz, to be honest, so I'm re-exploring all the dumb format questions they have. And so there'll be some multiple choice. There'll be some kind of matching or fill in the blank, and a few what they call essay questions, which will probably be a chance to write a little bit of code-like things.
Okay.
There's a question on chat. How many questions will it be? Well, to be honest, my other class has their second midterm tomorrow. And so I have been writing the test for that. And so I have not written this one. It's probably going to be, 20 questions or something like that, of which 1 or 2 may be slightly longer in time, and the other ones will be pretty fast. So I'm writing it so that the 60 minutes you've allocated should be a fairly generous amount of time to do it. But to be honest, not enough time to go and review every single lecture in the course up to this time and kind of figure out what's going on. So that's why I have a little bit of a time limit here.
Oh, I have a question. So when you answer, can you go back to that question or not?
You cannot go back to the question.
Okay, so you have one attempt.
So, yeah. So again, ponder it carefully. And there'll probably be a mix of questions in the sense that there'll be some questions that are basically sort of the same, but you were randomly assigned from some larger set of questions. Okay. Any other sort of test logistics? So basically, once you start, make sure you have an hour to finish, And you should also not start at, let's see, this thing is due by 6 p.m. If you start at 5:59, to be honest, I don't know what the behavior is, whether you get an hour or not. I don't think you do. So you have to finish by 6 p.m.
Before you finish.
What was that?
I think I've had this in one other class before. I think it shuts down before you finish.
Yeah, so that's when it's due, and so do a little math, subtract an hour. And just don't do it then anyway. I don't want to be like fixing your like computer problems at Friday night at 5:30 or something like that. So get it done before that. But that's just sort of, I'm trying to give a wide window to start, just to kind of schedule around your own stuff and schedule around whatever other issues you have with like computer sharing and things like that. Okay, so shall we do our Kahoot quiz? Are we ready for that? There's almost not an, oh, there's 36 of you now. Okay, that's pretty good. We could actually do our usual you against me kind of thing. So let me unshare this first and put that away. Where is my Kahoot quiz? Here it is. So I'm gonna go back and share this new screen. Do. So, you know, we're all feeling pretty cool using Zoom and stuff. And I just learned, I guess, that now we should all be on House Party or something like that, this other app, video sharing app. So we're already behind the times with our Zoom meetings here. We need to update ourselves to what the cool kids are using. Okay, so here's the pin. I'll put it in the chat so we have a record of it. Wait, let me. Okay. I know we usually miss out on the fun of the built-in music, but it'll only take about 10 seconds of it. 3910606. And we'll try to do the usual kind of thing where we'll do a question and then kind of discuss it a little bit, you know. So make sure you're asking questions after each question. And if I remember, the first ones have a lot, we'll see if we can even see, you know, I actually have kind of a chunk of code in there. So hopefully we can see it okay. Okay, 36. How many should you have to get right? Let's say 24 or more, you get a point. Okay? So 2/3 of you get it right and you get a point. I think I did a Kahoot review with my other class and I made them do 75%, and I think they got 0 out of the 11 points possible. I was a little sad and a little nervous because I figured, one, it was probably like the better students coming to this review, and so the fact that they got 0 points, anyway. You can do it. You're my only hope now, okay? So, oh, 37. All right, that's fine. Are you ready to start? All right, so, oh boy, what the heck? Is it gonna, okay, maybe that was just a, okay, given a list of bank account objects, let's see, that's very small. Can I make it bigger? Can you even see that well enough to see it? So there's a bank account, has an init that starts off with some money, a report balance that prints out the balance, and a change balance that changes the balance. And I'm asking, if you wanted to report the balance for all accounts, what's the right way to do this? "22 answers, 7 seconds. Oh, you're trying to get, wow, a point for you already. Okay, let's talk about this briefly. And part of it, oh shoot, this is gonna be a little bit tough. So again, the first thing is to get used to the idea of the class here, right? So we have class bank account, like a class, we have an init method that decides how you sort of initialize the class object, and then has a method that reports using the instance variable balance, and then it changes the balance and change balance. And these are all kind of faded out, unfortunately. So let's see, what do I want to talk about first? Why would you not want to do it this way? Is that even legal, first of all? Any opinions? So first of all, what do you think? Is it legal? You can just give me a thumbs up or something, or thumbs down. Not sure.
No.
What's the chat? I can't see the chat that well. What's the code again? Scroll up the chat. Oh, the chat doesn't scroll, or does it? It does. Okay, so one person, illegal, illegal, illegal. So accounts is a list. For accounts and accounts is going to pull out the bank accounts one at a time, and we're going to print out the balance associated with each account. So account is an object, and dot balance is getting to the instance variable in there. And you could do it this way. But there's a better way, right? So I think this is a better way because this method already exists to report the balance for you. So why reinvent this mechanism to report the balance, right? You should use the methods that are provided in a class to do the tasks you want to do, and not try to just get into the insides of it and just do whatever you want there. This one, well, we don't have, this one would depend on there being a function written, not a class method, but a function that somehow reports the balance. And it could be doing something like this code, like just print account balance. But so it's possible that it would work, but it's also, why write something outside the class when this seems to be something that's in the class? What would this one here do? This is kind of the funny one, right?
Just create a new list.
It's gonna let?
Like this will create new list. And
Okay,
like,
so when it's a list comprehension, and the job of a list comprehension is to create a new list, would this print anything out? Or just make a new list? Anyone have an opinion on that?
It just makes a list because there's no like print that list. So it just makes it, but doesn't return it.
So yes, I'm kind of abusing a list comprehension here. So what is this going to do? It's going to say for all the items in accounts, pull them out one at a time. And then we're going to build a new list out of whatever comes out of this expression here. And so this list is probably going to be a whole bunch of nones, right? Because report balance doesn't return a value. And so that expression turns into none, and it would just make a none for each old account that was there. So make a new list out of a whole bunch of nones. But it would still do this report balance, because report balance prints out something. So it would still print them all out, but then it would make this weird empty list full of nothings. And so, you know, once you learn list comprehension, sometimes you're tempted to turn everything into a list comprehension. But you should only make a list comprehension when you want to build a new list. And if you just want to like do something to each item in there, hold on a second, let me clear all this scribbling I've done here. If you just want to do something to each object in there, just go through them and call the appropriate method on it. Okay? So any other questions on that? Let's see. So basically it's a little bit of a trick question in the sense that most of these would actually do something and actually probably get some output to the screen. But there's like a good way to do it, and there's sort of worse ways to do it. And you should think about like sort of the correct way to do these things. Clear all drawings. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is related. Okay. Oops, I'm in annotate still. I'll go back to mouse. Oh, congratulations. Okay, make a list of positive accounts. In other words, accounts that are greater than 0. I like seeing you all ponder this issue in their video screens.
I mistapped one of mine and gave the wrong answer.
4 seconds. I can't see my chat window here. Let's see. All right. Okay, you guys are killing it here. I'm gonna swap you for my other class, I guess. Me 0, you 2. Okay, let's talk about it. So the goal here, it's the same class that we wrote, the bank account one. So we want to make a list of positive accounts. So if I were to, what am I drawing here? What's like the normal drawing thing? Just annotate. Let's draw. This one is a list comprehension, but the syntax is wrong, right? So the list comprehension should have the thing that builds the new object, the looping over the old list, and then any condition, those 3 parts, one after the other. And you just have to kind of get used to that pattern. So this pattern is wrong here, but it's sort of the right idea that it's a list comprehension and that makes a new list. This one sort of would work. We're basically trying to remove every account from the list that is not positive, but it is dangerous to loop over a list that you're also changing at the same time. So weird behaviors happen because you have a list, you pull one out that sort of shrinks the list down, and then you're going to the next one and sort of skips over one and crashes sometimes. So it's dangerous to modify a list that you're looping over. You don't want to do that. This one is just syntactically not correct. If I had done something here with like appending account to a new list, that would have worked, but maybe would not be the easiest way to do it. And this one is the correct answer. And again, it follows the pattern of we loop over the old list. We give a condition of when we want to accept this new each item. And then we say how we build the new list, out of what elements, right? So just keep that in mind. But again, this is the flip side of the last question. The last question was we just wanted to sort of do something to every item in a list. And so we did a loop and just asked it to do something. Here we want to build a new list out of some elements. And so we use a list comprehension. So you loop over stuff if you're just asking stuff to, apply a method to each one, and you use a list comprehension if you're making a new list for some reason. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. Oops, I'm still in annotate mode. A little bit of movement there. And now we have a third related question. If you have the list of bank account objects, change each account by $1,200, which some of us are going to get from the government.
Was the last class really that bad? Said.
I don't know. They were pretty close on a lot of questions, but but don't talk too proudly before the downfall here. Me 1, you 2, right? All right. So this one was tough in a way because there were a lot of right answers, and again, this is more style matters, right? You want to do it the correct way or the nice way to do things. So the correct answer was. So I'm not in annotate mode, was a circle. Am I drawing? I'm not drawing. Why am I not drawing? That made it all worthwhile. So here we have a list of objects, and we want to ask each object to do something, change its balance. And so we're going to loop over the accounts, and then we're going to ask each one to change by 1200. And the other ones sort of would work. So this one also does that, but again, we're not using the method that's there provided for us. We're sort of doing it directly. And again, you don't want to bypass any safeguards there might be built into those methods and sort of do stuff directly in the class if you don't have to. So that's not a terrible answer, but it's not the sort of most appropriate way. Then what would this one here do? See the chat thing here. Would this
I
one?
guess it will do same, but it's just like another way to do it. Like,
Yeah, it actually would change the balance in each one of those accounts because you're pulling an account out of the list and then you're asking it to change the balance. And then you're assigning the result of this expression to account. And what would be the result of that expression? We have to look at the code actually to tell. So when change balance happens, what value comes out of that? So if you don't return a value, what value does that expression turn into?
It just turns into 1200. So you're
Well,
not actually changing it.
It does. So in that object, it goes in, it would change the balance by 1200. And then we're saying in this code, saying whatever that expression turns into, in other words, what is returned from that method gets assigned to account. So was there a return in the method, in the change balance?
No.
No. And if there's not a return and you're asking it to be used as a value of expression, what value does it get?
Does it get none?
That's when that none keeps appearing, right? So it would assign none to account, but then it would go to the next one and just reassign account to the next item in the list. So this is just sort of a dumb, unnecessary thing. It would confuse anyone looking at the code, like, why are you doing this? But it would actually still work. So in some ways, I should probably give you a point because basically all of these would work, but this is still the best answer. So I'm gonna count that one as the correct answer. I'm not gonna have, on the test, I'm not gonna make it like such a nuanced view of things. I don't want to have to battle it out with all you about the right and wrong answers here. So they'll be like definitely wrong or definitely right kind of things. But I want to have a chance to talk about it here, right? So there's a
battle we all lose.
We're asking each one to change itself by this amount, and we're using the method that was provided for us. All right, let's move along here. Okay, so if you have code B equals this B class and then B print. So if you run this code here, I couldn't find a good way to add that to the question. So if you have this code after all this stuff, is evaluated, what would print? All of a sudden we're in an inheritance question here, right? Okay. Hopefully I did that one right. I always get nervous when There's a mix of answers. Like, did I even ask? Okay, so we're all of a sudden we're tied, huh? Gotta stay on top of your game here. So the question is, if you make a B object, B inherits from A, and you said B print, it would go to the print method. And then the print method says, go to the superclass that you inherit from and do whatever the print me there says. So it jumps up to the class it inherits from and prints out A. Okay. So if I had just said print me here instead of the super dot in front, what would print?
Then probably B would print.
Yeah, if you didn't specify go to the parent here, then the print me it would look for, it would be, if you said self.print me really, it would go to the print me that's inside the current class if it's there, and it would print that. Okay, so in this case, there's two versions of print me, and this is what's called an override of the parent class print me. So the B class print me overrides the definition of the A class print me. And that's the one you would use for a B object unless you say, hey, I really want to use the parent class print me by putting super in front of it. So remember that super always is going to refer up the hierarchy to the super class or the parent class, depending on how you want to discuss it. Okay. Any questions on that? All right, let's try a related one. Oh, 5 players off their streak. Your team needs you, come on. What would output from B equals A and then B print me? Got hunched over like a little coffee table kind of thing here. All right, good job. Give you credit first before we talk about it. U2, U3. This was kind of a dumb question, to be honest. I was just curious if you'd be fooled by having the variable name B be related to the class name B or not. But really, we made an A object that's called lowercase b, and we said, hey, A object, call print me method on yourself, and it prints A, right? In this case, the inheritance does nothing to it. It doesn't know about anything below it. So we can just treat this as really just having that single class A and doing whatever it says. So again, I was just kind of curious if that lowercase b in there would kind of throw you off your game and make you think something was up with that. So you know me, I like to be wild every once in a while. All right.
I see your cat again.
What's next? Oh, also we're doing some PYQT stuff. What kind of thing is top in the following code? And I know we haven't really done that much PYQT stuff. We've done, a lab and a few lectures. So if you haven't watched those lectures, now would be a good time to do that before you take the test. Okay. That's kind of like you either sort of know what's going on or you don't. But that was enough to tie us up. So what is going on here? In PyQt, we connect together one widget with another widget with this connect call. And so this is something like a button, and it's saying when it's clicked, then activate whatever code is here. All right. And again, I don't want to kind of really retalk all PyQt stuff. And so if you haven't been doing the lab or doing the looking at the lectures, you really, there's gonna be a few questions. I'm not gonna try to get too complicated, but you need to make sure you've covered some of that material. Okay. Here's the same code. What is the clicked part? Just enough. Although I will say there's now 40 of you answering the questions instead of 36, so you have a little bit of a built-in margin for error here. Seems a little unfair, but so what is clicked? Clicked is what we call a signal, and when we say signal, you can kind of think of it as an event that has been turned into something specific for that kind of widget. So for example, in your system, events are things like clicking the mouse on the screen, and PyQt, if you click on a button, turns that into a click signal for the button. So it's a more specific kind of event that sort of says what exactly is happening here. And we're saying, take this thing and make sure that anytime the button is clicked, that we're gonna make this code run right here. That's the slot of this widget here. But think of this as, instead of a bunch of if statements saying, hey, if there was a clicked event and the thing that was clicked was a button of some kind, then do this action. Instead, when we write our program, we make this web of interactions between different parts of your user interface. Here's a button, and we send a signal to this widget here. So when this is clicked, this does something, in this case, changing an image or something like that. And it's a much more general framework than just a big bunch of if statements where you have to track sort of what's going on all in one place. Okay, so in PyQt, you have to figure out how to put things on the screen. How do we do that? This is basically the lab. So again, go over the lab instructions if you haven't done that. My daughter wants to talk to me and I'm not letting her. She's like, are you still on that Zoom meeting? All right, I think you've pulled aggressively ahead here. Oops, no media here, go away. So the key in PYQT is that there's an idea of layouts, and the layouts say, does arrange these things in some sort of vertical order or horizontal order or in a grid, and there's a few other forms we'll learn. But you're not trying to position things exactly. You're not using anything to do with Pygame because it's not Pygame, it's PYQT, and you're not really using XY coordinates to position stuff. So anyway, it seems like you mostly have that under control. Back to Pygame now, not PYQT. How do we check if a mouse click is on a character? So this is more sort of homework related, application related. All right, barely made it. No stopping you now. So, right, so kind of like we did in the whack-a-mole game, the way you check to see if you're clicking on a character on the screen is really to check the rectangle. That's because the rectangle says where it is on the screen. So you can't click on the image. The image is just sort of always just sitting there. It doesn't say where it is on the screen, so it doesn't know how to position itself. We check whether we're in the rectangle. It's a little funny order. What is not? So not an advantage. So pick one thing that's not a good reason to use inheritance to structure a program, right? Don't say, oh, that's a good thing. Say, look at them all and pick one that's not a good thing. Oh, so close, but I'm still not enough to get there. That's pretty good, actually, because I think it was hard to, one, kind of figure out exactly what's going on with that question. So when you inherit from a parent class, if you have two different classes inherit from the same parent class, you each get those methods from the parent class in those two child classes. And so there's some common behavior you can count on between those two child classes. They can all, you can do a dot move on all of them or something like that, or dot attack, and it should all work. The child class also does get some methods for free from the parent class. Basically, you don't have to write those for each child that inherits from the parent. So if you have a draw method in a parent class as a character class, and then you have an attacker and defender, you don't have to reinvent draw in each of those child classes. So you get some sort of work for free. And then you can still, like if they inherit move, you can still override the move and make it do some new custom behavior. But in your code, when you loop over a list of these things, you can all just say dot move, dot move, dot move, and they all have some either behavior inherited from the parent or some custom behavior. So they can, but you don't have to do a separate loop for them. Basically, it's nice. You can put them in one collection and just call dot move on all of them. And then this one, parent class data actually is not hidden in the child class. You can still get to the dot instance variables and things through the child. So it's not like it really protects it in any way. So pretty good. And I think that's, those kind of conceptual questions are a little harder, obviously, to answer. You have to kind of think about why things are going on the way they are. All right, who's our big winner? 10 out of 10. Wow, 538, you're famous. You're also famous. You're also famous. Good job, numbers. Okay, so I think you did pretty well, right? That's actually the first class that's beaten me in a long time on a Kahoot quiz. And like I said, I'm not, my hopes are not too high for this test, to be honest. It was very painful writing this other one. These Kahoot Canvas questions, was killing me last night, trying to get them all munged into some ugly Canvas form. So hopefully, we'll just take this as a step we need to do towards the completion of this semester, and obviously take it seriously. But I don't think you'll find it too bad. Extra credit is a question. To be honest, I don't even know if I can do that on a Canvas quiz. Maybe you've inspired me to look. I don't know. We'll see. Now, remember that the assignment was delayed till next week. So, when the test is over, please get serious about finishing that thing up. And then we'll be talking about the PYQT stuff a little bit more, and getting towards the point where we can make like a real application out of it. But actually, you'll see it's not that hard to make something that looks pretty nice. Just get a few widgets going on the screen and connect them up, and you can kind of do some pretty fun stuff. So I think that's all we should be doing here. Any other questions besides extra credit? That's what all the questions, right? Well, thanks for attending, especially those of you far away from Utah at this point. I appreciate you staying connected. I know it's hard, and please do look at the lectures, okay? All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Let me stop recording.